recording. Okay. Who are you?
I am Andrew Mann, and I have lived here in Richmond my whole entire life.
Okay.
I was born out there in Hanover County in Dodgeball.
Oh, that's why you ride out there.
That's why I ride out there.
How'd you get started riding? Like road biking? Like how'd you get to road biking?
So, not to make it too long of a story.
Right.
In the 1980s, I was misspending my youth, and 1987, I dropped a Yamaha Maxima and broke my femur. So that day, I gave up motorcycles and took up bicycles.
Okay.
Bicycles are a great therapy for everything, and that worked out great. And I rode with just some friends for a couple of years, and then I found Rabba.
Okay. How long has Rabba been around?
A long, long time, and
Are we
I don't
40
know.
years? Plus more than 40?
More than 4 years.
Okay.
Sadly, we could ask Emily Kimball. She would know. So, yeah, put her on your list. Sadly, Bud is no longer around. He would know all of that information. And Bud Vai was a wealth of information and was very active in the club. Oh, my goodness gracious. Forever and a day. So, I was president of the bike club in 1997 and 2007 and 2017.
Oh, you came back. Yeah.
I did. As far as I know, I'm the only person to ever come back.
Wow. Okay.
But I have not done any research at all whatsoever. So.
I mean, 3 is a lot to come back and be president. But yeah, I remember you were president when I started. Okay, how you got started riding? So you do mountain biking. Some mountain biking still?
I do a lot of mountain biking.
Okay.
So I like to ride the mountain bike in the wintertime when
Okay.
it's cold out. And again, I don't have anything fancy. I have a 2006 26-inch mountain bike. But I love going riding with Tony and Wayne, and I love going riding out at Pocahontas State Park, and it's nice and mellow.
Okay. Do you do the events out there at Pocahontas? Do you do the mountain biking events?
I do not. No,
Okay.
I keep talking about doing like their cross ride or some of their races, but no, I have not done any of them.
But they're mostly races as opposed to just like charity, like just riding the trail. Okay. All right. Okay. Before the cycling, you said you were motorcycling. Like, when you started cycling, did you think about being that active, or was it just like, I'm just going to ride? But like, some people pick up cycling and it's, I want to get fit. Like, I want to train. Or was it just, you just started riding bikes? Like, and you didn't even ponder that at all? I know it's been a time, but.
No, I had, a serious accident.
Yep.
It takes a lot to break a femur. I was looking for a good activity in lieu of all the therapy, and I got on my bike and I loved it. Greg Brown, somebody I went to high school with, was an avid cyclist and raced all the time in the way back time. And so I got riding with Greg, with Jim Ferguson, and some friends, and we just started riding bikes, and it worked out great.
Okay.
So then I went to the Great Peanut Ride in September of 1993.
Wait, Great Peanut Ride?
The Great Peanut Ride. Yes.
What I'm guessing it does not exist anymore.
It does not exist.
Okay.
So there was this big annual bike festival, not a race, just a fun ride. It had been created, I don't know when, in the way back time. And I went and did it in September of 1993.
Okay.
And did my first ever century, 100 miles. All the rides started and finished in Emporia. And it was just a big bike festival. And later on, as I met more and more folks through Bike Virginia, we created a crew. So we would all come down on a Friday evening. Actually, we would we'd come on down Thursday evening, and you'd set up your tent. It was at Cattail Campgrounds in Skippers, North Carolina, which makes, Ashland looked like a huge metro area, and you'd set up your tent. You paid a fee to do the bike ride. There was an additional fee for the dinners, and the Ruritan clubs would come and set up the dinners. There was a big tent there, and they'd have a big bonfire every evening, and you just got to meet a whole lot of new folks there from all over North Carolina, all over Virginia, and some folks that came from far away. And it was always great. So my crew, we would get up early Friday morning, and we would do the Lake Gaston ride. You rode around Lake Gaston. It was about 81 miles. Yeah. We would get up on Saturday and do the North Carolina metric. Again, it's like 3 miles from the border, so we'd ride around, do a metric century in North Carolina, and then on Sunday, we'd get up and do the Virginia metric century. So like a whole slew of miles in one weekend. And maybe a couple of beers.
Committed folks, yeah. Sounds like more than a couple beers.
But again, it was a great ride, and my buddy Randy Rosemont used to come, and a big, huge contingent from Richmond would come down and do it. Yeah. And so Mo and Cindy Evans and a bunch of our crew, our dumpster crew, would come and do it, and we'd have, we'd have 20, 30 people in our little pace line, and we'd be just cruising along at a nice steady speed and have a great blast. It was awesome ride.
Nice. So you've done Bike Virginia a few times, I'm guessing.
I have, at least 20.
Would you camp outside, or did you have like a hotel or something? Like, how would you do it?
I always camped outside. So I think I did the first one in 93. I did the first one in 1993. It was down in Southwest Virginia, gently rolling, and it was extremely hard. Really? And yes, down in the far southwest corner, and it was the hilliest ride I had ever done by a long, down Abingdon and down that way. Yeah. And I remember camping out, In the old days, Bike Virginia was always a linear ride. So you would start at one spot and go to all the way to the end. And that was fun because you could always tell somebody when you got back to work that you rode like 360 miles and you went from like Saltville, Virginia to Keysville or something like that. But it was also a lot of hassle, the logistics of it. So
having to move all that stuff along the way. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a whole lot of fun. That was where I met so many new cool folks from out of state. Yeah. That was when I first got to know the ladies from Hanover, who I had known a couple of them through growing up out there. But I met all of them, like Liz and Alice. And then as I met them, I met other folks and started riding with a group of folks. And then that's how our group slowly but surely all melded together over the many years.
It does sound like it is many years, but that's why I'm asking you questions here. All right, so why do you keep getting back on the bike? Like, why do you keep riding? Like,
I love the feeling it gives me. I love the fact that I'm a very social person. So again, if you see me out on all the group rides, I will ride miles and miles and miles with a bunch of other folks, but I hate riding by myself. So the furthest I ride is the 3 miles to get from my front door over to Ackley Avenue so I can go ride with a group of folks. Okay. This past Thursday night was just the perfect example. We had a big group. We were riding at a nice fast pace, but not killer fast. Yeah. We dragged Josh and Lucille along at 20 miles an hour. Yeah. And we had a really good group. We had Sebastian, who rides with us on Swift. Yep. We had just such a great crew. Nobody was trying to kill it. We weren't going too fast. We weren't going too slow. We weren't going. We brought the whole entire crew started and finished with us. And according to Josh, we averaged 20 miles an hour, which is great for me. I'm quite happy with that. and it works off a few beers.
Yeah, Josh told me that y'all were moving along on that ride, and he got the 20 miles an hour.
Well, those are the great rides. Those are rides that are just right. And I mean, I've been out on the Hanover Courthouse ride where there's some folks that just want to kill it.
Yep.
And some days I can hang with them and come back and say, woohoo, we averaged 21 miles an hour. And some days they just drop me like a big fat toad. And that's okay too. I can ride on home on my own. But I really enjoy getting out on my bike, being outside. Again, that's the key thing that I've always loved, is to be outside. And the opportunity. And again, if you ride right into a thunder shower and it's raining, it's like, well, that's not too good. But to be outside is the key.
Yeah. That I can understand. Like doing the, I will ride solo, but doing the group rides, it's definitely caused me to do some really long rides, and it's vastly more enjoyable to do the rides with people. Everybody comes back and they weren't destroyed. That definitely motivates me to keep going out and doing this ridiculousness. Okay, so if you're going on a ride, like what do you take with you? Like if you're going on a ride, like what kind of snacks? What's your preparation for it?
Well,
normally it's like a short ride. You prepare for this much for a short ride. It's a long ride.
Right. So like in the Tuesdays and Thursday night rides, which are
20, 30 miles.
I will just do a shot of goo. I normally just am actually inhaling the shot of goo either on my drive out to Hanover Courthouse, or as soon as I roll into Ackley Avenue, I will do the shot of goo. And I love the little Cliff Blocks.
Yeah.
The kind of gummy kind of monsters. Those are awesome.
Yeah.
And then lately, I have been doing the scratch. I see you got some there, and I have been trying to do a couple of spoonfuls of that in my water while I'm out riding to kind of help.
Yeah.
And then that's it for nutrition. Well, and I guess on a long ride, if we're gonna go do 50, 60 miles.
Yeah.
I'm actually, for Saturday mornings, I'm terrible. I will get up and not do breakfast at all. So I'll do 2 cups of coffee and head out. And whenever we get to Ashland, I'll be like, oh, I'll do a shot of goo to get me home. But
okay. Yeah, I don't even think about trying to do the goo before I get to the ride. It's normally, I've done the gels as well, but I have they're somewhere over there. But I have Cliff Blocks as well, and they're great. But I won't end up using those until in the ride. But it's a long ride if I'm pulling out the goo blocks. I'll have a Cliff Bars. I take Cliff Bars with me on my rides all the time, and most of the time I actually don't eat them, but I'll take them with me. And if it gets, if hunger kicks in, 30 miles in, then I'm like, okay, let me open the Cliff Bar up and eat this thing now.
Yeah, I as a rule don't get hungry when I'm riding. And I do try, if we're doing like a century ride, to get something on my stomach, but to do like a shot of goo while I'm riding is great. But to actually do any kind of solid food, I'm not like, it's not something I'm like hungry for.
Right, okay. Yeah. And I find that interesting as I talk to people about their nutrition, like. Lucille Bradley, she drinks one small water bottle and then barely drinks from it, and find out how different it is for someone. I did the same ride as you, and you ate a whole hamburger and fries, and like I just munched on the Cliff Bar, and then somebody else like Paul Johnson, he just sweats profusely and has to fill his water bottles up all the time.
Well, and I do too. You can certainly ask anybody that rides behind me that I sweat profusely, especially when it's like crazy hot.
Yeah.
And we're doing those July, August rides. So I'll be sweating profusely and go through like a pint in less than an hour.
Yeah.
And I do try to drink. Again, when we're doing those Hanover Courthouse rides, and it's hot, and it's, again, 6 o'clock in the evening, I will try and drink a pint of water as I'm heading out there to get out there.
Yeah, to get hydrated, yeah. Speaking of heat, like, do you not ride at a certain temperature? Does it get to, like, it's like 99. Do you make the point to say like the weather is too hot? I should not do this.
No, I should not do that. And my wife frequently says you're going to kill yourself, but no. In the August, if it's, I keep finding that by the time we get out to Hanover Courthouse, and it's like 96, 98, it seems to cool down. And as soon as we get going, it's fine. So no, I will say that we've done the Dodgeball Dreamin' ride on a couple of times that it was ludicrously hot.
Yeah.
And some folks like have just fallen out due to the heat. And it was just, not this year, but just last year, it was crazy, crazy hot. And yes. But the heat doesn't bother me as much. Again, I think as long as I drink plenty of water, because like I said, I sweat profusely, and it doesn't bother me as much as it does some other folks.
Okay. I am... Well, okay, what about the cold? Like, is it flip side?
I hate the cold. And so, again, every year that I get older, the minimum, the coldest it will be goes up a degree. So,
okay.
I will gladly, especially the road bike, because I just get cold. Mountain biking, when you're in the woods and you're riding like at 5 to 15 miles an hour, it's not so bad. You don't have the wind chill. And so I don't. I used to a long time ago, I would ride when it was crazy cold on the mountain bike, and now I probably draw the line around freezing, but for road cycling, it's got to be at least in the 50s. So anything below that, no.
Wow.
So now, well, sometimes if it's a really good ride, I'm going to go ride with a crew, like on in the wintertime, like with John and Renata out in the East End. If it's gonna get to the 50s, I will start off like in the 40s. But if it's
gonna warm up,
But the sun has to be shining. If it's overcast and gloomy, it's just not gonna happen.
I can see that. Yeah, if it's gonna warm up a little bit, I can see the encouragement there. Have you bailed on any rides? Like you've gone on a ride and it's like, this weather situation is just uncomfortable. I need to like, have you bailed on a ride and said like, this was a bad idea. I think I'm going to stop.
Only if it's like raining or thunder and lightning. That's the problem about those like July, August afternoon rides. I wish I had more discipline and could get up crazy early, and I wish we had like a 6:30 a.m. ride like Tuesdays and Thursdays maybe. But if I get going and it's Thursday and it looks like it's going to be okay, so it's thundering and lightning right now, but it looks like it's all going to blow out. Like by the time I get there, I will still go. But no, if it's actually if I am looking at the radar and it's headed right our way, I will definitely bail out. And especially too, Hanover Courthouse is kind of a hike out there, and I just hate to get committed and it looks like it's headed right there and it's a big red dot on the radar. I'll just say no.
Yeah, I agree. Hanover is a drive, and I would kind of only go if the weather's going to definitely be good. There's training team exceptions. I don't think we've not canceled a training team, though. We've not had a case where we went out, we were going to do a training team ride and then canceled when we got there. I think it's always been canceled before we even leave home, kind of thing. So I was curious about where the limit's at with the temperature, because there are other people who are also like, nope, 50 is where I stop. I've not heard many people talk about the upper limit, though, like how hot it has to be for them to not go out and ride. I think one of my last Hanover rides, it was really hot this year. Maybe not the last one, but the one before last, and I did with the A group, and it was really hot, and I was struggling to keep up with the A group, and eventually fell off the back, and then I decided I just needed to stop, and then I stopped somewhere, and it was just like very humid and very hot, and I thought, am I about to pass out? Because it was so hot, and it was just, I had just been working so hard, and it was so hot. But thankfully, I started up and I was like, I'm not going to catch them. But one of the guys had stopped because he was having mechanical, and I stopped it. He happened to fix his flat, so I helped him let me use my pump and car. And your group came right on behind us. We caught up with you all. The A group had also stopped a little further the road. They realized they were missing two, and then we all rode back to Hanover with the last few miles.
Even if it's like 96, 98 degrees, and that's the problem about August. It's just insanely humid.
Yeah.
But if you're moving, it's not so bad. You feel like even though it's crazy hot, as long as you're moving, you got a breeze going. So 3 or 4 years ago, we just had one August that it was like insanely hot, and it would be 101 degrees at 5 o'clock, and you'd be like, oh, that's bad. But somehow by the time I got out there, it dropped a little bit, and yes, you hop out of the car and it's like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. But as soon as you got on the bike and started riding, it wasn't as bad.
Yeah. Vacations. I know you've gone on some cycling related vacations. But do you take the bike with you on your non-cycling vacations? You're going to see family out of town. Do you take the bike with you then? And how does that happen?
Normally I do.
Okay.
And again, I mean, for years and years, I was big on doing different bike tours. And I know, Jerry Heffler is really big on bike tours. So I did Bike Virginia for a number of years, maybe like 93 to 2006 or something like that. And then I just seemed like I'd been to every tiny little town in Virginia, and I wanted to get out and see and ride my bike in some other places. So I did GABA in Arizona. It's the Greater Arizona Bicycle Association.
Oh, okay.
And so they did a ride from the Grand Canyon to Mexico. It was really nice.
Okay.
And really well done. Unfortunately, I believe that ride has kind of fallen apart.
Okay.
And I don't think they're having it anymore. And then I did Sierra to the Sea, which is another one of my favorites. So in California, we started up in the Sierra Mountains and rode down to San Francisco, and it was awesome, fabulous ride. I did it with 3 other friends. Kristen Anders, who's here in Richmond, and then Ronnie, and then Brian Berryhill. And so it was a great ride. A real small club in California completely puts on the ride. It's completely the club itself.
Okay.
It would be like, I can't think of the name of the group that does it. But it's a really cool ride, and it's really well put together. And it's only like 120 folks on that tour, so it's really good. And then I did the ride Lagbrow, which is that's a whole entire podcast, which I'll tell you.
Lagbrow? That's kind of like
kind of like that, except for it's the worst of everything.
Okay.
So I will get a couple of other folks in. Years and years ago, I did a whole entire presentation on this. Jerry can come in and we could do a whole episode about that.
Okay.
It was the worst. It was the worst ride I've ever done in my life, but it was in the most beautiful country. It was in Utah. Okay. So, we what did we call it? Snatching victory from the jaws of chaos. But it's a whole entire. I will bring in the pictures. I'll get Jerry to come in. I'll get Kristen to come in. I'll get a couple other folks to zoom in, and we will do a whole entire episode on it.
We'll have to ask that another
that
time.
It is, yes. It's my.
Okay.
I'll jump up and down and tell you crazy stories for hours and hours. But
okay.
But Utah is gorgeous, beautiful for a road ride. But full circle now back to your question, that I went out many years ago and bought a Linsky bike, and I had it built in Tennessee, and they
my ice maker, which is probably done enough ice making. It's very interesting that it makes that sound at the worst time. So I don't let it run during the night because I would hear that.
Somebody in the freezer knocking, they want to get out.
It's all right. Cycling, Linsky bike.
All right.
Yes.
So I got tired. Oh, and I also did Cycle Oregon. That's a whole nother great story. But anyhow, so back in 2006, I went ahead and got the guys out in Ashland to make me a bike. So they called up S&S Coupling in Pittsburgh and had them shipped to Linsky Cycles a set of the titanium S&S couplers.
Okay.
And then Linsky made the bike for me with the couplers in it. So they did all the titanium welding and they sent it my way.
But these couplers were like in the frame. So you're like, you can break the frame in half.
You can break the frame in half.
Okay.
And so, next time we're out.
I think I've seen this bike.
Yeah, it's my bike that I ride out to Ackley Avenue. So that bike lives in the living room.
Okay.
And it's the bike that I ride out to Ackley every time.
Okay.
But it's got the couplers built into it so that I can take the bike apart, put it in a big suitcase, and ship it anywhere.
Nice.
And so whenever I go to places like Corsica, Croatia, New Zealand, I always carry it with me. So, but when we went to Italy on just a group vacation, I didn't carry a bike with me because that was either before I got in the bike or it was not going to be a true cycling vacation. And so I just found a really cool place to rent a bike. But for the most part, I do carry a bike with me wherever I go. Okay.
All right. And that that's not a foldable bike. It's a separator.
It comes completely in half.
Okay.
So, if you just ever Google S&S couplers, they're like two big pipe fitting kind of things. And the bike breaks in half. The cables have like little couplers on them. And the bike breaks down completely in half. I have a big, huge bag that the Han makes. Because again, if I had any attention to detail whatsoever, I could put this in a very small suitcase that would be whatever the dimensions are these days for domestic travel. Yeah. But I cannot do that. So I have a big, huge case that will fit the bike, the wheels, everything. It fits my helmet. It fits my shoes, my water bottles, and two kits, and it comes in under 50 pounds. And so whenever I'm shipping it international, it's fine. So it's a big, huge case, and it's easy to get it into and out of.
That's when we just did our trip, I used somebody else's bike case, and it was a soft case, and was really worried about how that was going to travel. And so when I thought about how much am I going to enjoy this trip, it was my anticipation was dulled greatly by, is my bike going to arrive in one piece or many small pieces? And of course it got there, it was fine.
My Dahan bag is a soft-sided case. Okay. And when you go to Croatia, we actually flew in and out of Ljubljana, Slovenia. Okay. Things are not quite as rigid and everything going. So I was concerned that it would come in the pieces and stuff. So, but it all came out fine. Okay. And the Linsky is 10 speed, so it's always hard to get it tweaked enough that the rear derailleur will do all 10 speeds. But I got it so it would work, which worked out really good because Croatia is insanely hilly. I needed every last one of those gears. Crazy.
Nice. Okay, so you have taken the bike on vacations that were not a cycling vacation. So you've been the president of Rattle, but you are also the part of another organization, Bikes for Kids. You are the what?
Foundation president for the Araba Foundation, and our key project is Bikes for Kids.
Okay. Explain Bikes for Kids for me.
So D. Knuckles started it many years ago, and started as a project to give back to the community that we all live and ride in.
Yeah.
And basically would buy brand new bikes from Walmart and would give them to the Christmas mothers.
Okay.
So he started off small. He started off working out of his garage and buying the bikes pretty much himself, and just getting some funds from the RABA members, putting the bikes together, donating them like to Hanover, Goochland, Christmas Mothers, and it slowly built. And then he basically retired from it. I took it over somewhere around 2006, I believe, and I've been doing it ever since 2009, 2011. We did finally get it incorporated as a 501c3 foundation. Special thanks to Cindy Evans and Kim Moore for all their work in making that happen. It's a lot of paperwork. So what I do is I raise the money. We buy the brand new bikes. We put the bikes together the first Saturday in November, and then we distribute the bikes out to everybody the first Saturday in December. We currently work with approximately 11 counties, plus the city of Richmond, the Christmas Mothers, and then we also support 3 or 4 special groups that are other nonprofit groups that work within the community to give bikes back to kids.
Okay, all right. What's the most challenging thing like doing the Bikes for Kids? What's the most challenging thing of doing it?
Today it's finding bikes.
Right, shortage, yeah.
So I'm currently working with Kent Cycles out of New Jersey. I'm trying to confirm the order this week so we can get the order placed. They will ship the bikes directly from New Jersey to here, to Tool Bank RVA. Special thanks, shout out to them for helping us immensely over the last several years and providing us a location to put the bikes together, store the bikes, and distribute the bikes from. It's just coordinating all the pieces parts. So it's this evening I'm going to be calling up 3 or 4 or 5 of the counties and calling Stephanie Lucky with Chesterfield County Christmas Mother and say, Stephanie, I got bikes coming, but I have hardly any 24 or 26 inch mountain bikes because I cannot get any at all. So it's getting the bikes, it's coordinating who gets what, then it's coordinating how they get there from here, coordinating the volunteers, getting
the
logistics. So last year, due to the pandemic, we did all the bike construction outside first Saturday in November. Thank goodness the weather was awesome, fabulous, perfect for that. We, coordinated all the tables and chairs and everything and the cones, the cone off from the tool bank. And everybody, wore a mask and it worked out. It was incredible. It was awesome that we can make a event happen in 2020. So that was fantastic.
The weather was good. I was there. The weather was actually, was it warm?
It was.
It was good enough for us to be outside and not uncomfortable.
It was very comfortable for November, whatever that day was. But, so again, we're scheduled that first Saturday in November of this year. So we hope that it will be not too cold, not raining or sleeting, and everything like that. And then coordinate all the bikes going outbound to all the different groups. Raising the money. The good thing about the bikes, the Kent cycles, are they are definitely nice bikes. They just seem to go together nice this past year. They are a little bit more expensive than the bikes that I had been previously getting, and so I need a little bit more money.
Sure.
So I'm working with multiple groups. Like last month we had like a matching grant with John Levy, and so he put up $2,500. All the rest of the RABA membership put up $2,500, so that's extra $5,000 that went into the kitty. I'm working this week and this month with the Virginia Society of Association Executives to do another matching grant. So I'm working with a bunch of folks to raise a bunch more money.
Okay. I am. What is today? The 4th? 5th?
Today's 4th.
4th. There's a hope that this will get released, that this will publish this episode prior to that bike build. So hopefully someone will listen and say, how can I help? Right? Hopefully that'll, and if not, even if not before then, someone will still hear it and say, I'd like to help. Right?
Well, again, we've got plenty of time, folks. I talked to a group of folks that, again, this has been during the whole pandemic. It's been very challenging, and they didn't have the resources to help this year. There's always next year. There's always going to be a next year.
Yeah.
And so that's the key. Yeah. And so we will do bikes again next year. And again, if somebody hears this come December time, and we still have to get all the helmets, and we have to have a little bit of extra money for that.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to have 350 to 450 bikes.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to have at least that many helmets, if not 50 or 100 extra helmets, to help with some other special projects through the year. And that if extra folks come April, May, they need helmets, then we have them and can give them out to the schools or special groups that are putting on like a bike rodeo or a bike training or anything like that.
So they can have those extras. Yeah. You mentioned the pandemic and some of the challenges with navigating that. How did, particularly with your experience cycling, how did 2020 and COVID-19, like how did that impact you going for bike rides and just your life with cycling and that kind of thing?
Well,
if at all,
Well, it did. It significantly did. I can't find anybody who 2020 and the pandemic didn't significantly affect them in one way or the other. So all of the bike club rides, the group rides, were suspended for several months, and so it was. So then I had to just go out, hop on my bike, and ride out to Ashland on my own. It greatly affected my work, so it stressed me out personally.
Yeah.
But I found riding my bike to be a great stress reliever, and to be outside on my bike by myself in the sun shining worked out great.
Okay.
And then I would get together with a couple of friends and ride, so I could still have a group ride with just a very small, finite number of folks. And then as soon as we decided that it was safe to go and resume our group rides, we started back the Tuesday and Thursday evening rides.
Yep.
And we made a point to keep the group small, and it's pretty easy if you have 4 or 6 people to ride at a socially distant pace and keep the distance. And that was great, and it was so good to get back to riding with my friends and being outside. And I think that was the best of all worlds. And it's funny that if you, in the wintertime, I did go out and do a lot of mountain biking with just a couple of friends, and it was funny to see over at Pocahontas Park. It was just crazy. And when I was over in Bryan Park, everybody was outside. It was like spring break every day, Everybody's walking their dog. Everybody's out throwing their frisbees. So I think that outside was what we could all agree on was the way to go. And it was great to have any kind of activity to have and be outside.
Yeah, hence our bike shortage now. Everyone else discovered outside. What do I do outside? I can ride a bike. I should buy a bike. And now we have a bicycle shortage everywhere. And bike prices are higher everywhere. So you mentioned some solo riding. This is not a great segue, but you've also joined me in the Zwift rides as well.
Yes.
What are you riding on how are you doing Zwift? Like, I mean, what are you on? You're not on trainer. You're on a spin bike of some kind.
I am. I'm on a spin bike that my wife bought. That is not a Swin, but it is a Swin style stationary bike.
It trains with power. What is it?
It does. It has all of the cadence and heart rate and all of that stuff.
Okay.
And it somehow it works with Zwift, so that works great for me. Because I'm too cheap to go buy a smart trainer and all of the things that go along with that. Yeah. And have a special tire for my bike and decide which bike's going to be hooked up to it and all of those things. Yeah. But I love a group ride. I love the fact that we can all talk on your app.
Discord, yeah.
Yes. And again, my wife teases me every time we go by Mont Saint Michel because I have to say, "Oh, I was there, I've been there." And every time we go over Pont de Garde, because I'm like, I've actually been there, and so she laughs at me because I'm like those old people that forget and tell you the same old story again and again.
There's going to be somebody who hasn't heard that, and they're going to want to know more. So please, you can mention that you've been there. But that's why they put it there. You know, people can recognize those sites in there. That's France. It's the France world that has all those in there.
It is.
Have you been in any accidents? Bike accidents on the bike?
I have. But not for a long time.
Yeah, that's what we want.
2000, I was doing a big bike tour. It was actually called Bike Tour 2000.
Okay.
So for the year 2000, there was a 2,000-mile tour.
Okay.
I did not have the luxury of taking off 6 or 8 weeks. So what happened was, Bike Virginia is like a 5-day bike tour. But what happened in Bike Florida is a bike tour, and Bike Georgia. And so what happened is a bunch of groups got together and coordinated the dates and the times and the locations. So there was a bike ride that started in Florida, and I don't know where, in the beginning of June. Yeah. And went through Georgia, went through Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas, and finished up in Charlottesville, Virginia.
Wow,
and was 2,000 miles. So there was a very small core of folks, like maybe 45 individuals that did the whole entire ride. Yeah. But you could do Bike Virginia if you wanted to. Yeah. Or you could do Cycle the Carolinas. Yeah. So I rode with my friend Eric Geyer. So I rode from Savannah, Georgia to Roanoke, Virginia. Eric rode from Savannah to Charlottesville. My wife picked me up in Roanoke on the 4th of July and drove back down to Danville, and we spent some time in Danville with her parents and then drove home. But it was a great ride. Oh, but it was so hot. Yeah. So we were talking about riding in the hot. Yeah. So I camped out in those days all the way across. And the Carolinas were insanely hot. Yeah. So it's one thing to ride your bike when it's 90. It's another thing to camp out when the low that evening is like 88 to 92 degrees, and it's sweltering. Like and yes. So, but it was a great ride. A whole bunch of our friends joined us for bits and pieces of it.
Nice.
A bunch of my North Carolina crew joined it. And I know the ladies from Hanover joined us for a big chunk of it. And a bunch of the Bicycle Maryland crew joined us.
So somewhere in this ride, there was an accident.
Yes,
okay.
Thank you.
Yes,
Speaking of focus and back full circle, the first day on the ride, I was riding with my friend Eric Geyer and Crazy Larry, and we were riding along at a really nice clip. We had just come out of Savannah. Mm-hmm. It was very flat, and we were tooling along, let's say 20 miles an hour, just the three of us in a pace line, and Eric was in front. And there was an arrow to turn, and he looked up to make sure it was, but when he did, he stopped pedaling. He didn't hit the brakes or anything, but he looked up, so Larry ran right smack into him and jammed his front wheel into Eric's rear derailleur, and they locked up, and sadly, I hit the brakes and veered off to one side, but then when it locked up, it threw Larry right in front of me, and all I remember is running right over top of Larry, and then next thing I know, I'm looking straight up at the sky. And so I get up, and a person that is riding like 500 or 600 yards behind us comes up like, oh my God, that looked terrible. And I get up, and I'm like, I'm okay. And then I start hearing this drip, drip, drip. So I look and go, oh, that's my blood. And that's the point that I look at my elbow and realize it's like in bad shape.
Okay.
And so somebody helps me, and so I rinse off the gravel and stuff out of my elbow, and I think I had a knee that was bleeding, and we hopped back on our bikes.
Okay.
And we rode to the next rest stop, and that's where we met all the crew from the Fredericksburg Bicycle Club.
Okay.
And they took one look at us and said, oh my goodness, y'all look terrible. And we did. We were sad.
Yeah.
And but they're like, yeah, we're not going to ride with y'all. Goodbye. Stay away from us. We met all the crew. That was where I met everybody from the Cycles Fred Club. Mm-hmm. And then that evening, it was terribly hot. I was in a lot of pain. And thank goodness little Donna from North Carolina pulled up. She was not riding, but she had a cooler full of ice cold beer in her back trunk, and she saved my life. Mm-hmm. So special thanks, shout out to little Donna. And I got some of that. Brian Towns had some kind of clear cover, so I could put a cover on it for a couple of days. Yeah. And we rode, kept on riding.
Wow. Okay.
Didn't break anything much. I think Eric's derailleur, finally we banged it back into place with a big rock or something, and rode the whole. I had a giant, huge, like black purple spot on my hip. Yeah. But I didn't break anything, and that was the last serious accident I have had. Thank goodness.
Well, good. I mean, that didn't sound great, but that didn't sound terrible either.
Well, I always try. I've been blessed. I try, again, about riding in groups. I try to ride with folks I know. Yeah. When we get in a big, I used to do the Seagull Century back in the old days. Yeah. And there would be a giant pace line of 30 people going 24 miles an hour. Yeah. So I would try not to ride in that group. Or I'd try and ride with my friends like Ronnie and Eric. And try to ride with folks I know. Again, when we rode the very recent Heart of Virginia Century, it was very reassuring to ride with Henry and Joanne and Ken. So,
familiar faces, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I guess, we all have to keep in mind of that. Like, yes, they can keep the pace. They know how to ride in the group, but like, do we know how squirrely they're going to be, in the group? It is good to ride with people we know.
Well, and it's hard too, especially on the Thursday night ride when we're trying to do a compassionate A. Yeah. And we're going fast, but there's lots of folks that have figured out how to ride that fast. Yeah. But again, there's so we try to be inclusive and constructive.
Yeah. Okay. So you kept riding. So my next question was, were you any fears after riding? But you did a whole event, so I guess there was no concern about.
I just got back on the bike within like 3 or 4 minutes and rode the rest of that day and rode the rest of the thing. Yes.
Okay.
But again, it was clearly user error. So it was us. There was no motorized vehicle involved.
Right.
Nothing at all happened.
Right.
Now again, I was with Chris Tompkins many years ago when he hit a car. We were riding, and Andrew Einoff was with me, and several other folks. Now, where he hit a car and crashed and was paralyzed after that. So that was a bad day.
Yeah, that's a worst case scenario. Well,
it's
pretty worst case scenario there.
Well, and also my best friend in the world was hit and killed while riding his recumbent just 4 Thursdays ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is dangerous out there. You have to be careful.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you sit there and think about what could happen, you would get off of your road bike.
That's true. I'm sorry to hear about your friend. You mentioned that before. On a less somber note, earliest memory of riding a bike.
Yes, thank you. It's so good. Riding like a swing kind of bike with no gears on it at all, and riding. Like some Sundays we like to go out Old Ridge Road.
Yeah.
And turn left at Fork Church and go down to Rockets Mill.
Yeah.
So I used to live very close to that. So riding down that big hill down to Rockets Mill as fast as I possibly could.
Yeah.
Without any kind of brakes at all.
Okay. Dangerous living there. When did the Dodgeball Dreaming Ride start? When did that become a thing? That you were doing that every year? You know, roughly?
Back in the early 2000s, I think. I know at least 2006, something like that. Somebody was looking for a Sunday ride. We were trying to find some rides back in the early 2000s. I guess we didn't have like any Sunday rides, so there would be kind of like a special ride every single Sunday. So it would be like Jeannie's ride out, Main's ride or out and about. And so I said, hey, I'll do. Oh, and way back in the 1970s, there was a book, and I don't know. I don't have a copy of it. I'll have to go back and check. But there was a book called Rides Around Richmond that somebody from RABA put out, and it had all these different rides, and it had a ride called Dodgeball Dreaming. And I can't remember where it started from, but it wasn't Glen Allen. But back in the early days, so somewhere back in the 2000s, the Thursday night ride started out at Glen Allen Elementary School.
Okay.
So every Thursday night we'd ride out of there. So there was like a crazy fast crew, and that's who migrated over to the R&P Crump Park.
Okay, yeah.
And then so there was a ride there, and so that's my favorite place to start and finish a ride is Glen Allen Elementary School. So I just said, okay, we're gonna start from there and head out, and at least like 18 or 20 years.
I've yet to do it. I think something has always come up that I've yet to actually do this ride, and I think I was like, oh, that's Andrew's ride. It goes up to the Kings of Maine, and I've yet to actually. Something has always come up that I've not been able to do that ride, and I know some people even done the route when it wasn't your birthday. And I still wasn't able to make it. And every time it comes up, like, oh, I'd like to ride at the Kings of Maine. Nope.
Well, ask Dorian. He'll tell you about Crazy Hot.
Crazy Hot. Okay.
Crazy Hot.
I may have to ask him about that Crazy Hot from Dorian. Okay. And you've been a member of RABA for a long time. Quite a while. How do you feel the organization has changed?
I think that there is a core group of folks that keep all the events happening and keep the Heart of Virginia going, our annual Century Ride, keep I think that the thing that we all love the most about the club is our friendships and our camaraderie, and that's why Josh has dinner after the Thursday night ride. That's why we have the picnic, and I think the greatest attribute, the greatest thing that the club brings is that they're inclusive. Everybody's friendly. It's not. When I started umpteen years ago, I was terrified that there was a whole bunch of racers that were going to go crazy fast and drop me out in the middle of whatever. Yeah. And I went out on the Tuesday night ride that I now lead, and exactly that happened. Yeah. And so Deborah Jones came along and said, "Hey, do you have the route?" I'm like, "Not a clue." She's like, "Come on, ride with me." And I've always wanted to carry that on. Yeah. That when I see a new person Saturday morning for the Breakfast Club ride, I come up to them and say, "Hey, what kind of pace are you going?" "Oh, I want to make sure you get to meet Jeannie and that she will not drop you, or that you're going to meet David McMillan, and the Thursday night that you find somebody." I think that that's been a big draw for the new rider ride. I think this past, during the whole COVID thing, folks got out, they got a nice new bike, and then they're like, "Oh, well, I want to ride my bike." Yeah. And then they Googled and they found Rabba. We have this nice new couple, Pam and Jason, that moved up from Charlotte, and then they've been riding with us. Nice. And it's just good to see new faces come on, and that everybody is welcoming and inclusive.
That is, while anybody can go ride, that is very useful with the group, having people who are like, they want to make sure you have someone to ride with. Like, "Oh yeah, come just meet this person. Like they'll do your pace, and do you know how to get to A and B? Like, do you know how to route, that kind of thing?" Like that was when I joined. People were Ron Lefebvre was who I was looking to do the VCU alumni ride. And I emailed her. I was a member of RABA, hadn't done any rides. And I emailed her. I was like, "Hey, I'd like to do the rides." And I'm like, "Right." Ron offered me, Ron was like, "Yeah, come join us, the VCU Helps team." Right. And I was like, "Sure." And I go to have you done this alumni ride?
I have, yes. I've done it a bunch of times, yes.
So we go to the Cary Street Gym, and we're all, there, or everyone's there. But I don't know anyone. I know no one. This is my first year of riding. I'm 3 months into this thing. And so I'm just like, kind of socializing with people, but I don't know who's who. Didn't ask names. And then we start the ride, and we do the ride, and then we get all the way to, I think it's the 29 or 20. I can't remember. We're either way halfway into the ride ish is the Osborne Landing, and that was their rest stop. And so I'm there again. We're all, everybody's there, and they're stopped, and I start chit chatting with people, and I start talking to this lady a little bit, and I saw she definitely had these deep arrow wheels, and that was Rosie. And I didn't, and I spoke to her for a bit, and I didn't know her. And then I talked to this other guy, and somehow I was like, I was trying to find this group, and I didn't know, and I didn't exchange any numbers or anything. And I was like, "Oh yeah, my name's Trey." And he's like, "Oh yeah, my name's Ron." I was like, "Oh," and so I was sitting there talking to him, and he's like, "Yeah, you can ride with us." And then he points me over to the group. And they're lining up for a picture. Like, we're getting ready to leave. He's like, "Oh yeah, just come over here, stand with us for the picture." And he's like, "Yeah, John's our guy who does all our route stuff, right?" And so they're lining up for a picture, and it's John, CJ, Lucille, Mike, who's also a pharmacist at pharmacist, black guy who's a pharmacist at VCU, works with Ron. And then Ron, getting this lineup for this picture. I know none of them at this point, right? And then I'm on the left side of it, and I just stand to take the picture because they had an official photographer. And then rode the rest of the way with Ron because we ended up dropping back. I think he may have slowed down so I could keep up with him. But they ended up using that picture as the brochure for the alumni ride the next year.
Yeah. Okay.
And so the next year, I had a couple friends like, Trey, did I see you in the brochure for the alumni association? Like, what is? I was like, yeah, apparently that's the picture they used, and that was the one they had up for a while. But
that's so funny because you were also like on the one for Climb to Conquer Cancer.
Apparently yeah.
You're the poster child.
I know. I have to do it now.
That's so funny. But and see, that's so cool because everybody that you talk to has got that kind of that initial story about. And Ron is awesome.
Yeah.
And he's so good. But so is Ken. And there's so many folks. And again, that's the key, is that it's welcoming and it's inclusive. And then the second part is, once we get you in, hopefully we're helping you with some constructive criticism on how to ride better, how to ride in the pace line. Make sure you've got a blinky light on the back so we can see you. All the things that kind of help make it a better experience, a safer experience.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. And Ron ended up inviting me to the BDR ride, and then the BDR it's a snowball effect from there. Everyone shows up. But everyone when I joined, everyone was super friendly. They made sure I had people to ride with and what route to do, that kind of thing. So that was new. I couldn't recall a time where I joined a group of any kind and didn't know anyone there, and then knew I was going to keep joining the group, and then but people made the effort of saying like this, like you should try this, and like we're going to do this. You want to come with us? Like that was very welcoming, and I do try to keep that in mind when I see other people. Like, yeah, come ride with us. Like maybe not do that. And I'll see new people, and I will ask a new person like, do you have the route? Like, is your phone charged? Like, please don't get lost.
Well, and that was a thing that happened a few years ago. And I can't remember that. We have not been doing the new rider ride for that long, but maybe 6 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And so the problem was it would start out of Laurel Park Shopping Center the first Saturday, and that was great. And so we'd have somebody kind of orchestrate it, and I would always try as many times as I could show up and shepherd a group out.
Yeah.
And everybody got into it, and I'm like, well, come back, we're going to do the ABC ride next Saturday, and it's every Saturday. So they would come in, and then there'd be this big, huge group of folks that were going to do the long route.
Yeah.
So they would come on out till you hit that first stop sign that's now the stoplight, and make a left. And everybody would be kind of in this chit-chatting mood and catching up and all going like 16, 17 miles an hour. So you have this like whole crew of like quiet little folks that are just tagging along.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as they make that route and they go up over the railroad tracks, they kind of accelerate up.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they go to like 18, 19 miles an hour. And so they all come like, there'd be this whole crew of people I have no idea who are getting dropped. So I'd stop up at the stop sign and herd everybody up and say, do you have any idea where we're going? And they all shake their head. They're like, okay, we got to go this way. Are you up for 24 miles? But again, it is, everybody's trying really hard to be, inclusive, and it's good. And it's friendly. It's just a great way to make new friends.
It is. I am very glad that Rabbit exists, that there's not a clear path to joining, but I'm glad the organization exists to like easily have someone come in and find rides all the time. Because imagine trying to find a group without Rabbit existing would be tough. Like there's other groups that ride. It would be very tough for someone coming in new to town to try to find other groups that ride with regularly and to have it to know they're gonna have people that are gonna be as welcoming to them. So I'm glad that Rabbit exists and continues to. Okay. What's something that you'd want to share to a brand new rider what's some tidbit? Someone's coming up to the ride, and they're just like, what's a tidbit of wisdom you want to give someone who's like a brand new rider?
Well, again, I like your first one. Is do you have the route down? Do you have it like on Garmin? Do you have a cue sheet printed up?
Yeah.
Again, a lot of these like monthly up and away rides, we're going to go a pretty big distance.
Yeah.
So if you're going more than 20 miles, do you have, plenty of water? Do you have spare tube? If you have tubeless tires, do you have a faint idea how you're going to fix this? Which I don't know, but do you have like CO2 and all the accessories to fix a flat in whatever manner you need to? And then, is it your first ride? And if that's the case, then, you need to come ride with this group over here.
Yeah.
Or if it's, your first ride, but you're able to ride 20 miles an hour, have you been in a pace line? Here's some basic do's and don'ts for being in a pace line. It is hard because when I run across somebody who can ride 20 miles an hour, I assume they've been in the pace line. But we've had a couple of folks this past summer, just in the last few weeks, come in and join in, and they haven't. So, and to be, friendly and helpful without being critical.
Yeah. We have to be able to say, like, we'd like you to tag along, but maybe you shouldn't ride as close. Like, just see what we do as opposed to like try to do, not ride in between people. Ride a few feet back, more than a few feet back, and just see what it looks like to ride in a pace line. Because I have no idea how I learned to ride in a pace line. I mean, I certainly picked it up, and I'm very happy to be in the back of a pace line.
Well, and knowing the route is so funny because so many of the times we would have like Hanover Courthouse ride has multiple options.
Yep.
Yeah. And we'd have like 6 or 8 folks out doing the Mount Gideon option. And once we got way out there, nobody but me had a clue where we were. I'm like, we're going to go on up here and make the next left. But at the top of the hill, wait for me because you don't know where you're going.
Yeah. Oh, bike computers are great. I don't know if it's great. Like I don't understand how people. Okay, it's probably a financial reason of not having one, but I want to have the route. Like I want to know, even if I know where we're going, I still want to have the route in there that's telling me where to turn, that kind of thing. So I'm glad that you let us know what options, what route that you're doing for those rides. So I think that's like most I wanted to cover. Did you have anything you wanted to bring up, man? Is there anything that's substantial you wanted to chat about that we may not have covered? And maybe you don't. Maybe you do.
No, it's funny. I just I was kind of looking at some of the stuff from the way back time, and I was just thinking of all the folks that have kind of gone before us.
Yeah.
And like Charlie Thomas. We have like one of the rides that's like, named after him. And again, bikes for kids, it's, coordinate a whole lot of details, but there's a whole lot of people that help and come in.
Yeah.
And, at the end of the day, I pick up the baton and the Rabbit Orchestra just plays. Okay. And it's like, and I miss Charlie. He always helped me get the bikes together. We would do these special bike assembly parties out at CarMax, and he would help me get the bikes, bring the bikes back. He would always carry the bikes out to Henrico. So again, I've got like all the different counties, and that Saturday it was like, okay, we've got 50 bikes going to Henrico. Yeah. And Charlie would take as many as he could and lead out, and he would always know like where they needed to be dropped off, who was the contact person, stuff like that. Paul was always in early. Paul and Jinx were always there, crack of dawn, that Saturday morning in December when it's freezing cold, And the bikes are cold because they've been out. I was looking at some of the pictures from back in the days when we put them all in the back of a semi-trailer.
Mm-hmm.
So they'd always be there early, help me get the bikes out, sort the bikes into this pile's going to Henrico, this pile's going to Hanover, this pile's so... all the people that do so much completely on their own time and their own nickel, and that keep all the gears rotating.
Okay, all right, and hopefully they will get a chance to hear it and know that their work is appreciated. You know?
I hope so, because it's a whole village and it keeps on going.
All right, well I'm almost out of batter here. This works pretty good. All right, I think that's gonna be it, man. I may have you back. I know you have more stories to tell, more things going on, but I think this is a good start.
Excellent. I loved it. I enjoyed it. I definitely have lots more stories. I definitely am going to come back and do one just strictly on bike touring.
There was a lady. Now it's still recording. We are still recording. You mentioned someone else that you wanted to try to include, and I can't think of her name.
Emily Kimball.
Right. Okay, you did. Okay, Emily Kimball. And she's one of our oldest members?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I have that down. And I'll figure out how we can, include her so we can have a chat and see how she feels about routing and riding.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you for your time, man.
Life is good.